Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight to our January 7th meeting. Before we begin the regular meeting, we have a couple of items that we'd like to address. First being the Monroe-Woodbury Girls Championship. Amazing feat by all of you. Terrific. Tonight I have members from the town board, including Supervisor Cardone and Councilman
Cologne.
Cologne. Wow. Is it? Right, so, okay. And our board here, and let me just say up front that we're so excited to have you here, and I appreciate, it looks like a full attendance, I think. This is pretty amazing, so we're pretty excited. So I think at this time, if I can have everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a matter of housekeeping, behind you, there's an exit, and up here to your right. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Supervisor Cardone to come on up. Okay, so what we've done is we've made a proclamation on behalf of the town of Monroe, the village of Monroe, and the village of Harriman. And I'd like to read the proclamation to the lady, please. Proclamation honoring the Monroe-Woodbury High School Varsity Girls Soccer Team 2019 New York State Public High School Athletic Association Class AA champions. Whereas there are many students who participate in extracurricular activities both on and off the field, and whereas dedication, focus, and commitment are paramount to a successful result for an individual and their peers, and whereas the Monroe-Woodbury Varsity Girls Soccer Team has shown the hard work, perseverance, and exceptional team play all year, earning themselves a 20-1 season. And whereas all the players, coaches, cheerleaders, fans, team member parents, and the Monroe-Woodbury student body have all come together to acknowledge these efforts. And whereas these players are students, ambassadors, and role models who stand out among the many of their community. Now therefore, Anthony P. Cardone, Supervisor for the town of Monroe, along with Neil Esquire, Mayor for the village of Monroe, and Stephen H. Welly, Mayor for the village of Harriman, do on behalf of their respective boards and communities proudly recognize and acknowledge the Monroe-Woodbury Girls Varsity Soccer Team as the 2019 New York State Public High School Athletic Association Class AA champions. And be it further resolved or further proclaimed that a copy of this proclamation, solely engrossed, be transmitted to the Monroe-Woodbury Central School District. In witness whereof, Anthony P. Cardone, Neil Esquire, and Stephen H. Welly, and their respective boards have hereunto set their hand and have signed on the 7th day of January, 2020. Congratulations. Coach, we'd like to give this to you. You can bring it to the school and kind of focus this play, move around and be a part of this in a very small way. You girls are amazing. You're ambassadors. You're part of this community, always will be. And I'll let Supervisor Cardone.
I said it at the parade, it was an unbelievable feat. Happy to see it done 2 years in a row. Pressure's on Coach Stockton's strictly beaten. So good luck wherever you go in college, and if you're coming back next year, we'll appreciate it. And if you're going to Marist, good choice.
Well, I just, this really means a lot. Thank you to everyone for letting us come here tonight and honor us. And, it never gets old, to be honest with you. And this year was a special year. And I really want to stress what a special group of girls they are. And they really, for us, it wasn't easy what they did. There was pressure. We really didn't talk about it too much. Every game, it seemed like everybody was always up for us. And they matched every intensity most of the time. Maybe Washingtonville game, the second one. But and then we ended up beating them anyway when we turned it on. I've had a few weeks now to digest and to think about what these girls were able to accomplish. Now, we didn't come up with a cure for cancer, but we certainly went out there, and this community should be so proud of what these young ladies did, to face what they faced They had a target in the back all season, and they matched the intensity. It's just been a proud moment, and we had a great time in the process. Sometimes, they would drive me crazy at practice, I get mad, but sometimes they would step up and also come through, and as we went through the season, we got closer and closer, and they just did a fantastic job. So I just want really the community that is present here from Monroe and Harriman and Woodbury, because these are your young ladies, and they did such a wonderful job that I will never forget, and nobody will be able to take it away from them no matter what. They'll always have that. Some of them were on the team for 2 years in a row. They were really blessed, and nobody, is going to be able to take that away from them, and that's always going to be etched in their minds. And I know as coaching staff and the school district, we're very proud of them, and it never gets old, and every time I see them, I just feel so good about them, and I just hope they appreciate what everybody's doing here tonight, what your community has done. Mr. Cardone and the others, Mayor Dwyer, have obviously threw a parade for you. It's just a wonderful thing, and so please just always remember, what you accomplished, and nobody can ever take it away, and nobody. And always think back. Great scene from the movie Cinderella Man. You ever watch it? His manager always brought up things positive that he accomplished. So when you're feeling down or anything like that, just remember what you were able to accomplish. And who was that team that beat Fayetteville Medalists? And you say, that's our road team, 2019. Always do things like that. Parents, please do that for them. Who made all states? Caitlin Salado, first team, Josie Source, this first team. Just remember those things. Say that to them every now and then when they get down. Just remind them who they are. It's like that scene from Lion King when he said to him, remember who you are and what you've done for this community. Put us on the map in many different ways, okay? Thank you so much.
Mayor Welly apologizes for not being here tonight. He did have a prior commitment. He tried to get over late.
And we do have our county legislator, Pete Toohey, who I'd like to have to come up and address the ladies as well.
Try to not take too much time, but again, congratulations to your successful season, two back-to-back in a row. Last year, I know I recognized some of the faces from you came up to the county chambers, and did it. Now we're back here and we're celebrating again. On behalf of County Executive Steve Binhouse, who unfortunately wasn't able to be here tonight too, I'm going to read the certificate. We have one for each of you. It has Orange County Executive Certificate of Recognition presented to, I'll use Caleb Bauer. All right, so you're the executive. And if you can help me distribute some of this. So it says, presented to Caleb Bauer, Monroe Girls Varsity Soccer Team, November 17, 2019. Congratulations on winning a second consecutive NYSBH, New York State Public High School Athletic Association. Did I get that right? Is that all correct? Class AA Girls Soccer Championship, signed by the county executive and with the county seal. So here's yours. And let me see if I can get some of these names right. Alexis and Lisa. Caleb Harvey.
In there? Your hair looks great. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, Irene.
Yes. And survived. Yes, for sure.
He's a love of God. No. All right, if I give you this, will you take it and get me some signatures from your family?
See, now if you would have given it to me last week, I would have gotten Harrison to sign.
I'm kidding. Just kidding. Only kidding.
Sign? Can you pass that to Deb?
I did sign.
Just pass it to Deb.
She's so bossy. All right, so I have an issue. And I hope that doesn't make a big issue.
Bye, Tony.
Tony, please don't talk to Lisa
Year,
because
guys.
it's funny.
What's that?
We get a
I said, please
picture
don't
of
talk
it.
to Lisa because it's funny.
Lisa, I got a question for you. Irene said if I talk to you, it would cost them money, so you got a couple minutes?
Joking.
No, I'm
He's
kidding.
kidding. He's kidding. You know me, I'm always joking.
guys on here until 2 in the morning.
Right.
Okay, that's funny. I leave at 9:30. No matter what Neil has to say.
Oh, thank God.
Night, Pete.
Peace out. Somebody took my pen.
I can grab another one. I'm sure I have.
No, you're good. We're good. She's not writing anything. Oh.
So you could sign it.
Oh. Okay. So if we could move along with the meeting. On December 17th, we promoted Detective Grasso to Sergeant Grasso. At that time, we had asked if he would come back in so that we could recognize him formally, and we appreciate you being here tonight. So I think at this time, I'm going to have Trustee Hool read out the resolution authorizing the appointment of Detective Grasso to Sergeant Grasso. Trustee Hool.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Monroe has accepted the recommendation of Police Chief Guzman and approved the appointment of Detective Anthony J. Grasso to the position of Sergeant effective December 20th, 2019, at the starting sergeant salary of $104,415, as per the agreement between the Village of Monroe and the Monroe Police Benevolent Association. All requirements of the Orange County Department of Human Services certification list of eligibles for exam number 782971 have been fulfilled, and the necessary MSD 426 will be forwarded to the Department of Human Resources.
Congratulations.
So Sergeant, if you come up with Mrs. Grasso, that'd be awesome. You have anybody out there in the field?
Oh, you want a picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, there you go.
Oh, Chief's got it.
Chief, we get a photo for the
Chief, you want to take it?
How are you? Okay. All right, next order of business, the approval of minutes of December 3rd. I need a motion to
I'll
accept
make the
them.
motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Thank you. Oh,
I mean, you can just go through it. Just go and do it.
at the end? Or down the road?
Beginning of old business.
Yeah. Okay. Want me to pause on the minutes and just do it that way then?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, you can accept December 19th and then just.
yeah, okay, fair enough. I need a motion to accept the minutes of December 19th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
No.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Aye, so carried. Thank you. Okay, at our last meeting, we held over the
The
Public
FAR law,
FAR law, local law,
we're establishing floor area ratios for single and two-family detached dwellings. And we held open the public hearing, and in response to some comments from the public, I made, upon approval of the village board, some minor adjustments to the local law. Very specifically, in the exceptions to the FAR schedule, we have added an exception for any application that has received final or conditional final approval from the planning board. Recall that under the old version of that exception, developers were only accepted if they had already filed the plan or the plat. The problem with that is if it's a conditional approval, then it's not really, you can't file it until all of the conditions are approved. And in some cases, you may need something approved from DOT, that could take a year. So this board decided, and I agree, that that would not be fair to have applicants go before the planning board, go through the entire seeker process, spend lots of money, get the approval, and then be subjected to FAR after the fact, retroactively. So that's accepted. So once this local law is adopted, anyone who has
by that time, received approvals, final or conditional final, will be accepted. We also added anyone who has applied for and gotten a building permit for a single or two-family house prior to the adoption of this law. They're also accepted. Again, that's only fair. And then I added, upon this board's approval, that to the extent that the regulations set forth in the FAR schedule conflict with provisions set forth in the table of district uses and bulk regulations of this zoning chapter, the more restrictive application regulations will apply. And the reason for that was so there would be no confusion that a single or two-family home would apply to the most restrictive subdivision here. All right, so those were changed. The board has a copy of this with these changes underlined, and that can be made available to the public. I would suggest then that certainly the public hearing is open. If the public wants to speak out, also, I would suggest to the board to, again, keep the public hearing open until at least the next meeting so that the public will have an opportunity to review these changes and make comments on them.
Okay, I need a motion then to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye, so carried. Public hearing is open. Okay. Was there anyone that had a comment tonight regarding the FAR in its latest version? Okay,
No? Okay.
okay. I need a motion to adjourn
I'll make the
until
motion.
next meeting.
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye, so carried. Next meeting date is? Okay. First order of business was a continuation from the Cumberland Farm performance bond release. We had-
Mayor,
Yes.
we have resolutions and appointment to make.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, resolution. Part-time dispatcher.
Yes, in a memo from Chief Guzman, he writes to the board asking that we accept his recommendation and appoint Tammy K. Davis to the position of part-time dispatcher effective January 8th, 2020, at a salary of $18.73 per hour. Ms. Davis has undergone the required department background investigation, and the results of her pre-employment physical and drug screening are still pending. However, I will take a guess that considering she has significant experience with emergency medical services, that those will be just fine. I put that in the form of a motion.
I'll
Second?
it.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Aboard.
Welcome aboard, Ms. Davis. Bye-bye.
Okay, I think we can continue to Cumberland Farms.
Yes.
Okay. So, back on December 19th, we had tabled the release of the performance bond for Cumberland Farms as recommended by the building department, only for clarification on 2 points. The first was the plantings that needed to be removed and replaced, and the second had to do with a sprinkler that had turned on during the cold weather and wound up freezing up all the sidewalks and in the street on both 17M and on Freeland. So we had initially anticipated somebody coming tonight to discuss that. Unfortunately, they're unable to make it. But to move this along, I'd like to, bless you, I'd like the board to consider that we approve the release contingent. We have a letter from the planning board referring to the plantings for a period of time. But I would like to do a contingency, or have a contingent, that upon the village is receiving an affidavit from the applicant stating that they've gotten the sprinkler system certified, that it's in operation and it's been winterized and furnished to the village, I think that would be acceptable to release. Okay.
Okay.
So I need a motion to state as such.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried, thank you. Next order of business was the Glen Eagles. I know you're here this evening, Mr. Saeed, and I'd like to ask, I know I'm just gonna continue this for a moment, but last we spoke, you had some documentation you were going to furnish from the developer?
I've already emailed you the documentation. I already have a copy of it.
Yeah, could I?
So the last page, I didn't print it out, but that's the part of the code which actually describes what is the road.
Could you make a copy of that, make,
6.
like 6, 7? All right, so, what you had expressed was that, in fact, that document that's been recorded in Orange County as a deed,
I don't know if it's recorded or not. I
Oh.
thought that it was recorded.
you doubt it?
I doubt it for sure, because nobody had it. The only thing that shows that there is a 15-foot easement is on a survey map. Now, we can go back and forth and saying this has been deeded or not. I went to Orange County, I have a folder, that big folder.
Yeah,
Everything that deeded and my title exists
Right.
in that folder.
right.
So I did every copy. I did all the legwork for everybody around. Nobody had any, even the legal description. That the builder signed on, that's supposed to be with Orange and Rockland, that they're supposed to have actually deeded that. That's the paperwork.
Do you have any documentation supporting O&R's assertion that they have the right-of-way there?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any documentation that asserts that O&R says that's their property, they have an easement on that property?
The survey map,
Just a survey map?
correct. This document in there, that exactly says that 15-foot easement supposed to be from the road.
Right, but I think when we spoke, you had mentioned that the location of it. Let me read something to you, and I'd like your thoughts on this. Through said lot 57, which you are, the following 2 courses, said course is intended to be 15 feet and parallel to the easterly boundary of Reynolds Road. What do you believe that to be, the easterly boundary? I'm just curious if you know, okay.
But as far as I know, it's the boundary of the road. The boundary of the road is
At the curb.
correct.
And would you say that the 15 feet from the curb back onto that wall is 15 feet?
Right now it's not, because we actually were about 5 foot in the easement, but it should be, if we bring it back to the 5 feet that we're on the village property, the O should be the village property.
Okay.
But right now, with the building inspector, he wants me to bring it back 20 feet, because I'm 5 feet inside, in the village property. Right now, he wants me to go back to 5 feet, which I'm in the village property, and then on top of that, I need to go back another 15 feet, which he says is the easement for Orange and Rockland.
Hang on one second. Let me just find something here.
All right, what are you looking for the map?
I'm gonna dig it out hopefully in a second. I'll take that copy. I had it here. Okay, so
So the wall currently is on property that's owned by the village. It's not your property.
No, that was a mistake that,
Okay,
based on also the code, that I have documentation says the right of way, which normally the village property, is about 10 feet from the curb.
uh-huh,
But for some reason, from Reynolds Road, it's 15 feet from the curb.
mm-hmm,
So when they came in and they measured, they just measured the normal standard, how do all contractors, they build stuff. They just measure 25 feet right from the center of the road back. And that's
Okay.
basically how it is. But that particular case, it wasn't. It was actually 30 feet.
right,
The village has more right of way in this case.
behind your house.
well, looking at the map that the building department provided us in his last, take a look at that if you would.
Sure.
Yep, and that green area, have you seen that map before?
That's exactly the survey map.
Has it been noted in the color like that?
Yep,
Uh-huh,
that's exactly what it is.
right. So, your point or your argument, if I understand correctly, is that you are on the village's property
Correct.
and are prepared to push it back, but you want to push it back how many feet from its current location?
I want to push it back exactly on the property line.
Okay? And that's where the O&R easement is,
Correct.
right,
For the survey map.
right. So O&R has sent us correspondence stating that they don't want anything in their right-of-way.
They sent it to you, correct?
They didn't send me anything.
Oh, really?
Other than the same document that you've had, and that's when I called. Okay.
So when we last spoke, I initially contacted Orange and Rockland, both the legal and the group that we deal with as a municipality, and asked for some help here. And they had researched your property and came back with this.
I'm okay with that, but that's at their easement, because there's a legal description.
You're okay with this?
If they don't want, because I'm gonna be outside of it. Technically speaking, the problem with this is, right now, when I called them over the phone and I was told this part, that's when I pulled up the legal description, and I sent it to you, Mr. Mayor, on Thursday, and that was, I think, December the 26th or the 27th?
Mm-hmm.
And that same email was sent to Mr. Eric, because when I spoke on the phone, Mr. Ergrom, he already had
From
that
O&R.
email, correct?
Yep.
He already has that same email with same documentation for the part of the code from the village of Monroe that exactly describes where the road should be.
But he has not responded to that latest.
Responded to that email, nobody has responded to me in that email.
Okay.
And actually, if you look in exactly what chapter of the code that is. Actually, another addition part that I might add to this. That will be chapter 170 of the Village of Monroe Code, attachment 2, which specifically says tree specification. And if you would like a picture of that, I have it right there.
Okay.
I'll look at it.
No, can you, right, yeah, I was gonna say, can you send it to me?
There you go. Yeah. And the email I sent you, it has 3 pages in the attachment, the last page on it topography, or other conditions are such as to make impractical the inclusion of the utilities or drainage facilities within the street rights of way. Perpetual unobstructed easements at least 25 feet in width for such utilities. That part of the code tells me right there that this actually is supposed to be within the right of way. I have no idea how did this pass with a 15-foot easement inside of my property.
Okay, so right now, what this shows me is I've got a 10-foot from the curb line back to the slope of the property, your property, which is behind the sidewalk. And it talks about underground utilities to be located between the sidewalk and the right-of-way. And the right-of-way line, is that where the grade changes, according to this? Now, I don't know.
No, this is from the chapter. That's just a description.
This is just, right, this is a boilerplate, right,
What is the right
right.
of way, whatever it's slope or not.
right. Yeah. I mean, it's, my point is that it's, here's what I'm gonna suggest we do, because we really need to kind of close this, right? I'm gonna make an appointment with my village engineer, okay? And I'm gonna have him come out to the field, to your home, and you're welcome to be there. I'll let you know when that'll be. And we'll just, if I can get O&R to be there as well, and we'll just kind of get this done. There's conflicting information based on that boilerplate information. And what Jim Cox is asserting here, which is to say that the right-of-way is at there's the curb. See, I don't see the footage isn't listed here. The 15-foot right-of-way is listed.
Can I see it for a second?
Yeah, sure. The green is the right-of-way from O&R, and that's behind that line, but from that line forward to the curb, I don't have that number other than that boilerplate that you have at 10 feet.
From what line exactly? From, where is the red line? This is my property line.
Right
The
here.
red line saying that, that's,
This black line right here is your property line.
correct.
Right. So what I'm saying is, I don't know at this dimension, according to that chapter 170, this is 10 feet.
Based on the survey map, which is the scale 1 inch, 20 feet. This will be approximately about 0.75 inches. I have a ruler right now, I'll measure it, but from the curb to here will be another 15 feet.
What I'm saying is, that heavy black line right there, that's your property line. That's your property line.
Correct.
That 15 foot,
Yep.
what the assert, is what O&R is saying is their right of way.
Correct.
You're in not only that right of way, but you're in front of it.
Correct.
So now you want to take it out, the wall, but
Yep.
you want to put it where?
I'm gonna put it back on the property line.
Not on the property line, but you're, at that point, you're in their right of way.
Correct.
And I don't want you in their right of way.
Okay.
So what you've got to do is you've got to be on the other side of this here. This line right here, 15 foot from your property line.
Sure. But that's exactly what I was called orange and Rockland for. They said the reason they don't want me in here on the right of way, for one, is based on a deed that was filed in 1965 on the old Reynolds Road. Because if you drive by Reynolds Road right now, right? You'll see all the poles are right behind 60
Right.
Reynolds Road, the historic house.
Mm-hmm.
The old deed was written based on that. Now Reynolds Road was moved. They have
Right.
no poles or anything in that easement, that's all. Number two is the legal description is a 15 foot from the road, not 15 foot from the property line. So technically, the old survey's map that have been filed are incorrect. Or somebody put them, did a mistake. The intent was to do it this way, but it wasn't done that way.
Is your communication pretty much been with Eric Crum? Pretty much this fellow from O&R?
No, I think, her last name was Kimberly.
Not Eric Crum.
Both of them, they work together.
Okay. All right, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be in touch with them tomorrow, and I'm gonna ask for a field visit. And I'm gonna ask them to bring what they've got, and I've got what you got. this here?
You're gonna have,
John O'Rourke there.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, what we're gonna do. You know, I mean, what I'm puzzled by is they've told us where the right-of-way is, but it's not on a filed map that you show. That's what you said.
No, what I'm saying is, this file map does not match the legal description.
Well, it does,
Because the legal description is from the edge of the road and the road has been moved.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is
Mhm.
the whole, that's what I was
I
asking.
don't know.
If the legal description is from the edge of the road, it's from the edge of the road, wherever that road is at this point in time.
Right.
well, this is dated 2014, though, is my point.
2014, that's the
When did the
actual, why
road
they have
get
the.
switched?
When did they move the road?
The road got switched after we moved up, and that was in June of 2014. And I'm gonna say it was a full year after we moved up, so that was probably 15.
After? So it was moved in 2015?
Mm-hmm.
And this was written in 2014?
And this was written in
May
2014.
29, 14.
Yes.
So now that legal description is what was supposed to be on this map,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not.
But the legal description just says from the edge of the road. It doesn't say that the edge of the road of the original road. It just says the edge of the road. The existing road, whether it's been moved or not, is the existing road.
I guess everybody's confused here because nobody's looking at the map.
No, I was
No,
looking at the
we-
map.
The road 15 feet. Right now, this map
Mhm.
shows it 30 feet
Mhm.
from the edge of the road.
I think O&R needs to come out and identify where their,
Well,
You have nothing in there.
identified on the map.
You have nothing in there.
on this map, I mean, I think they need to come out and physically see where it is and make sure that all of these things are jiving. I mean, let's say that this is a different scenario, right? Let's say that some gas lines need to be repaired, and they think that the gas lines are 30 feet off the road in his property, but they're not. They match a different description.
But here is the
You understand what I'm saying? So
So they need to know where
they need to know where they need to dig.
Significantly around a big.
Mhm.
Has nothing in the rear property. All the way, there is nothing going on. This
Well, there has to be
No, I
some
don't think
sort
it's
of
there.
work
I
order.
don't think anything's there.
There is for future use.
It's for future, right. Yeah, I don't think anything's there. They wanted to reserve it for any future utility work. But this map, which was AFR prepared, which is what you have there, AFR, right?
Correct.
So they're the ones that are saying or asserting that there's a 15-foot right-of-way utility easement for Orange and Rockland, and they're saying it's from your property line back. You're saying it's not recorded that way. I mean, am I saying this correctly, right? I mean, this map here shows, which is from AFR, shows that there's a 15-foot right-of-way from your property line back onto your property.
Correct.
And they don't want anything in there.
Orange
You're-
Road.
That's right.
They
You're
don't want
sa-
anything in their easement, period.
Period. That's what they said. They told me that. They said they told you that. Now, the next piece of this comes from what you're saying is you're ready to move the wall, but you don't want to move it off of the right-of-way. You want to move it on the property line, which is still within the right-of-way,
Okay, per the map, yes.
per the map. But you don't believe this map
I believe the right of way is in the yellow part, not in the green part.
because on that chapter 170, it shows you a 10-foot,
Because it shows, it exactly says where the road is. If the
Right.
legal description is saying it's 15 foot from the road, it has to be 15 foot from the road, meeting that code.
okay?
Also, if the code says that the easement has to be within the right of way, you cannot take 15 foot off my property. It has to be within the right of way. So it's gotta be within the village right of way, which is in the yellow part.
Alright. Well, I'm gonna have the engineer come out, we're gonna meet with you, and if AFR would like to join us, I don't know if you know them at all, or if you have any business with you, okay, we may have to get them out there. Everybody get their ducks in a row, so the building department is asserting that you cannot build in that right of way per owner, and we can't have you on our property, so you're gonna be on your property, but Jim says you can build it further back up on your hill. That's basically what he says.
That's what he told me exactly, which,
Right.
he said that you cannot build an easement. I don't know where that came, because I read also the code, and I don't see anywhere in the code that says that the town gets it full. I mean, I understand the problem that Orange and Rockland doesn't want me to build in there. That's something between me and
Okay.
Well, that's probably because he just got the letter from Roger Rockland, right?
No, Orange and Rockland has said that they've been talking about this since October. When did you first try to get this moving? September, October? Yeah, it's a while.
Almost 1 month, 2.5 months we've been going back and
Yeah.
forth.
But I thought I remembered you saying that you had a phone conversation and they didn't care. Wouldn't be an issue or something.
Sometimes if we didn't care or something, now we can, I see a lot of, it's back and forth right now. Same
All right.
with everything that I wanted way back. I don't remember anything right now with that, but everybody will say something and then send me a letter, I found
Right.
something else somewhere else.
All right.
All right, well, I'll get in touch with all the parties, and then I'll let you know, and we'll get everybody on the field. Fair enough? Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Hang on to your stuff.
Don't mind me asking Mr. Mayor one more thing.
Sure.
How long will we get all the parties? When to expect that we get all parties together so we can figure it out?
I'll get in touch with the engineer tomorrow, and I'll call O&R tomorrow. And O&R is probably, I would guess, probably gonna take them at least a week to get something together. I think our engineer, I could pretty much get him around, when we need him. All right? So, but I'll let you know tomorrow, status and everything, like I did last time. Okay?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. Next order of business is the adoption of local law 15 to regulate transient housing and short-term rentals. Okay. I should read the following. Village of Monroe Resolution of Adoption of Local Law amending Chapter 200 zoning law to regulate transient housing. Be resolved that an introductory local law titled Amendment to Chapter 200 zoning law to regulate transient housing to define and clarify certain prohibited uses to avoid possible misunderstanding of the zoning law as applied to residential properties, and whereas a duly published and posted hearing was held on said local law on October 15, 2019, whereat public discussion was heard concerning the merits of said local law, and after hearing from all those present wishing to speak and acknowledging that no written comments had been received, the Board of Trustees declared the public hearing closed. And whereas the local law was referred to the Orange County Planning Department on December 4, 2019 pursuant to General Municipal Law 239, and since OCPD did not respond within the 30-day statutory timeframe, the Board is authorized to proceed with the adoption of local law. It is noted that on January 2nd, 2020, OCPD did in fact respond that the action was considered a local determination, however, and the response was unsigned. Now therefore be it resolved that the introductory local law titled Amendment to Chapter 200 zoning law to regulate transient housing at the Village of Monroe be adopted on January 7, 2020 as local law number of 2020 of the Village of Monroe. I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye, so carried. Thank you. I'm gonna write on this. Yeah. Okay, next order of business is the adoption of local law number 16, 2019, one-way streets. We took up this introductory local law, I believe, at the December
19th.
19th public hearing, and we closed it that day, correct?
Yep.
Okay. We had public comment from the public at the time, and the board has reviewed these comments. and considered them. As a result of that, I put as the following. The adoption of local law amending the Chapter 43 Vehicle and Traffic One-Way Streets. Whereas an introductory local law titled amending Chapter 43 of the Village Code, Vehicles and Traffic, was introduced before the Board of Trustees of the Village of Monroe on November 19th, 2019, and whereas a duly published and posted hearing was held on said local law on December 3rd, I thought it was the 3rd, whereas public discussion was heard concerning the merits of said local law, and after hearing all those present wishing to speak and acknowledging that no written comments have been received, the Board of Trustees declared the public hearing closed. Now therefore be it resolved that the introductory local law titled amending Chapter 43 of the Village Code, Vehicles and Traffic of the Village of Monroe, adopted on January 7th, 2020 as local law number 2, 2020 of the Village of Monroe. I need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, just before you make that motion, you had requested that the local law be effective 90 days or thereabouts from its adoption.
Yes.
In order for the village to get signs and gate. So that local law would simply read that it's effective on May 1st, 2020.
Right. Okay, you'll add that to the resolution.
Well, I'll add it to the local law.
Local law, excuse me.
That Ann Margaret files.
Yep.
And it's just the effective date. It's not really a change to the law itself. It's going to be effective at a future date.
Right, but in the resolution where it says adopted on January 7th, effective, it should say effective
Right.
May 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I will second.
Call the question.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, so carried, thank you. We did. All right, we did the Cumberland Farms with the contingency. Yeah.
We did, we talked about Cumberland Farms.
Yep.
I missed it.
It's okay. Okay, next order of business, request to travel for the building department.
Trustee Allen?
Trustee Alley?
Oh, you got it.
A letter from our building department. They're requesting attendance at the mandatory yearly New York State Building Officials Conference training. Jim will be attending Westchester's New York State Board of Conference training at the Westchester County Center in White Plains on the following dates: February 11th, March 10th, April 13th, and May 12th at a cost of $210, budgeted from line A 36204720. Debbie will be attending on the Rockland New York State Board of Building Officials Conference training at the Fire Training Center, Pomona, New York, on the following dates: April 21st, April 22nd, and April 23rd at a cost of $275, budgeted also for the same line. Village vehicle will be used. I'd like to, let's see, well, I need a form of a motion, right?
Yes. I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the, do I have to read the whole thing here?
No.
Okay. Approve travel for both Jim and Debbie to the conference.
And I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Call the question?
Aye.
Sorry.
Just wanted to mention that this will give them both a minimum of the 19 of the 24 required
Right.
hours.
Okay, so we,
Aye.
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 aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, next order of business is the acceptance of bond YMCA amended site plan. Resolved, the Board of Trustees accept the bond estimate submitted by the YMCA for the site work to accommodate their expansion plan to add a pool in the amount of $44,368.40. The village's engineer, Lankin Tully, John O'Rourke, has reviewed the construction cost estimate prepared by the applicant and agreed the amount is acceptable. At their December 16, 2019 meeting, the Village of Monroe Planning Board also reviewed and agreed that the cost estimate proposed is appropriate. I need a motion from the board that we accept.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
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 Aye, so carried, thank you. Okay, next order of business is a request for a penalty waiver on water account 4592, 4151, and 4587. Trustee Conklin.
Yes, so we received a letter from housing manager of the YMGLA Housing, or GL, I'm sorry, Housing LLC, Blima Hirsch, who had requested that we waive the penalty fees. She did, in fact, write out the checks to pay the bills, but never mailed them. And unfortunately, we didn't receive them in a timely manner, and so I'm going to ask that the board deny that request.
Motion?
That's my motion.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? Call the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Thank you. Next order of business is the local law number, and the other one will be two?
It would be three, no?
Because the laws are numbered sequentially as they're adopted. And if this local law is adopted, it would be three, assuming no local law is adopted prior to it. In other words, if the board had the public hearing, adopted the local law next, it would be three. If, for example, the board adopted the FAR law in between, then this would be four. Because it's sequential based on the date that it's adopted, not the date that it's introduced. That's my understanding of it.
I say three also, and Margaret, when we have the chapter 43, the local law for the one-way, you have it as local law number 2 of 2020, so I'm just sequentially thinking three would be the next in line. Yeah,
Actually, it's really blank until you adopt it. I
Right.
mean, it's,
It's not really assigned a number in
Yeah.
theory.
in theory, it's not assigned a number until you adopt it.
It's giving an introductory number.
well,
Yeah.
let's, what do you want to do?
Give it three.
Number three.
Okay.
Give it number three.
Okay. Be resolved that an introductory local law titled "Local Law to Override the Tax Levy Limit Established by General Municipal Law 3C" is hereby introduced by Mayor Dwyer before the Board of Trustees of the Village of Monroe, County of Orange, State of New York, and be it further resolved that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law be laid upon the desk of each member of the Board of Trustees, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees shall hold a public hearing on said proposed local law at the Village Hall, Stage Road, New York, at 7 p.m. on
January 21, is that the next meeting?
January 21st at 7 p.m. Be it further resolved that the village clerk shall publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the Village of Monroe no later than 5 days prior thereto. I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Call the question.
Aye.
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 Aye, so carried. Thank you.
And the mayor would note, as usual, this is a precaution.
Right. This is not in stone. This is a mechanism that allows the board to move forward should it need to override the tax cap, that it has the ability to do so legally. I just have one thing I want to talk about real quick. We've been working on, we've had some back and forth. The town has an overlay district that they're proposing in the town of Monroe. They made a proposal. We hired a planner. The planner made a 17-page report, prepared, sent it back to the town. The town created a final DGIS document, scoping document. And as a result, we want to review that document now. My hope is that we can bring our planner in to meet with the board to discuss those findings upon the review, make some recommendations as well, which may include us bringing him on for further analysis. So I just want the public to be aware that we are continuing that effort to make sure that our rights and interests are protected. That's all I had. Anybody from the board?
I got nothing.
I didn't, Deb, do you?
No.
I just want to talk quickly about the water, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We get a lot of requests for, waivers, penalty waivers, and forgiveness. And although the board does have a soft and compassionate side for many reasons, it's just not always a feasible thing to do. It's gifting in many cases. And I understand that in this particular case, this young lady had filled out her bills and somehow they got shoveled into things and she thought she mailed them and it was an honest mistake. But we have them all the time. And if I do it for one or we do it for one, we end up doing it across the board. And soon it's unaccountable, water and we can't do it. So I just wanted to explain that we get these constantly. We always get people coming and asking, and there are circumstances where we do waive fees for, there's a water leak and it's on our side and it's, an issue that we may have caused. Those are the reasons that we would consider a waiver. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Trustee Ali? Council? Okay. Public comment, please. Please. Yeah, that was, when did you send it? The other day, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 days later, I sent you an email that I discussed it with my neighbor and he's ready to go ahead with it. So
Yeah.
can we have a meeting? We set
Sure.
up a meeting so we can have you proceed?
Yep. I was actually waiting, one of the issues that has to happen is the engineer has to be on site. So when we communicated, it was right around the holiday and, it just wasn't gonna happen. But I think now it can happen. No, I agree. It's a very old road and it's got a huge curve in it and I get it. Yep.
So how are we gonna proceed?
I'm gonna get in touch with the engineer. I have another matter I'm gonna call him on and we're gonna do both of them same day. So give me a few days to, I have your cell number. Yeah, we'll follow through. If I get to him tomorrow and he's willing to meet me by next week at some point, I'll let you know. And we'll need that property owner as well. Okay? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, bye-bye.
Hello, Mr.
Hello.
Wurzberger. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Thank you for you too, for all of you. I just see that you just made the resolution about this road.
Yes.
And I was wondering why we didn't, last time I was here, we were talking about, and we were taking an engineer to give us maybe different recommendations about it, instead of just closing it off.
Right.
So I have a son who's gonna live there now soon, in 4 weeks. He has a family with children. Across the street, Mr. Green has a family with children. And it's so difficult for the buses to be able to go in.
Right.
There's so much other ways how to control traffic just by putting up a gate.
Right.
Why aren't we looking for different solutions? There's people, it's our people living there, it's all together. It's our village, we're all paying taxes, we all try to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the village reconsiders and tries to help each other over here.
I think Trustee Conklin probably says it the best way, but I'll give you my example. You had said, I think actually Shauna had said it last time you were here. You talked about driving to those streets from Scuddy Monk, right? And that would accommodate what you need. But somebody who doesn't know you, and somebody who needs to get to Spring Street, and he's coming down Scuddamunk, and he doesn't want to wait for the 15 cars at the Scuddamunk 208 light, he's gonna make that left. And while he's making the left, he's looking at his cell phone. And we have, I don't know how many kids are on that block now. Many. I couldn't fathom that idea. Could you?
I understand what you're saying, man.
And that's what guides what we do,
Still,
public
I understand
safety.
What you're saying, you're trying to protect the people living there, I understand. But that's why I was saying, maybe there's different ways of just closing it off, making bumps over there so cars and buses shouldn't go through there. Making over a certain size of a car shouldn't go through there. There's certain ways, other than just closing it off. This way
Right.
it makes it
So,
healthy for the people who don't, shouldn't go through over there.
Right.
It gives it for everybody
right, and so I'm gonna revert back to what I said the other day, which, Mr. Wurzberger, I understand completely. The convenience factor is intense. It's so much easier to cut through Highland Avenue and Park Avenue and through the Temple parking lot to avoid the traffic light. Or if you're coming from KJ into the village, to avoid that portion of the light. And for buses, it's so much easier to come down Highland Avenue or Park Avenue to avoid trying to bank a right onto 208. So I get the convenience portion of it, but we have to do our due diligence, and that's protecting the residents of this
I'm
village.
just saying, you're saying yours, I'm
And
saying
speed
mine.
bumps?
We're just going around.
Yeah, no, and here's the other thing,
No, but I
speed
was saying,
bumps.
if we take an engineer, a traffic engineer, a traffic consultant, could come up maybe with an idea which could solve for both. That's what I was saying.
Like, people shouldn't wanna go.
But you can't selectively choose who
But
can
if
use a
you
road.
take a traffic consultant,
correct?
Maybe we'll come up with an idea. If you want, I would take a traffic consultant and
Right.
and let him look at it. There's so many ways, you know. New York is very big. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have all types of vehicles, and any one of them could create the kind of problems that we know exist there. Doesn't matter what the size of the vehicle is, it's, you know, some of the turns are prohibitive, some of the difficulties there, but I think it's more about just traffic safety.
And speed bumps, although I love that idea in theory, you get heavy trucks, they break them down. You can't plow them, so when the weather doesn't permit, you know, we need plows, you have speed bumps, and it's not effective. The only way to stop the abuse of the street is to, I mean, that street was never designed, that little cut through.
I can't argue with you that case.
And here's the
I'm
other
not a
thing.
traffic consultant.
Right.
That's why I'm saying, let's take somebody who understands how to do it, and maybe he can come up with a
But
way. That's what I'm not saying, I'm not arguing
here's
with
the
you. You are
solution.
right, and the mayor is right.
Right, here's the solution, Mr. Wurzberger.
That's
Nobody's saying you cannot access Highland Avenue, and nobody's saying you cannot access Park Avenue. Hiya, you're gonna go to the traffic light like everybody else is, and you're gonna be inconvenienced. You're going to go to the traffic light, or you're gonna go down Franklin and Forest and come up North Main and go to Highland that way, right? Nobody's saying those roads aren't accessible.
You have to turn around and then go back.
Well, if you're in a car, it's not that difficult, and you only live across the street.
No,
You can
if
still
you're,
walk.
if you're on Scuddamunk, you're gonna come to the light, you're gonna make a left on North Main.
Then come back.
And
Yes.
if your decision is to go up Highland, you're gonna go up Highland, you're gonna come back down Park, and you're gonna come back out and then turn back out.
You're gonna close off that road, you're gonna close it off and make it a one-way.
It's getting closed off, it will only be accessible to.
Smithfield.
Smithfield, right. It will only be accessible to fire, police, and ambulance.
Yes.
That's a
Smithfield,
small little strip
Smithfield.
that takes you from Scunnamunk to
How
Highland
about,
Avenue.
how about you make it a one-way, just to be able to come up Highland?
So I spoke with the police department about that, and those were the traffic consultants that we did talk with, because they're the ones who are controlling all of the traffic that's in the village of Monroe. And this is these are conversations that I've had with the past chief of police and the current chief of police. The best way for us to minimize the potential for serious harm to pedestrians and to motorists on Highland, Smithfield Road, and Park Avenue is for us to close Smithfield Court. Smithfield Court doesn't provide for any type of access other than to make a cut through from Scunnamunk to those two other streets. There were several complaints of speeding cars, which the police department went, they put up blind traffic cameras that people wouldn't recognize. The speeds were excessive on Highland Avenue and Park Avenue. There were also several complaints of the entirety of the roadway turned into a single direction of traffic because some people wanted to make a left onto North Main, so they came to the left of the cars that were making a right, and there were many residents who were not able to exit their driveways. So in consulting our traffic experts, the Village of Monroe Police Department, it was because this is exactly what I suggested at first. Can we just make it a one-way? Make it a one-way out. And they said that that's not going to alleviate all of the problems. So this is something that we've been looking at since.
I heard what you say, I appreciate it. I'm gonna ask you just one question. If I take a real traffic consultant, not the police, somebody who understands the traffic and how to control traffic, and there are many, New York is a very big city, right? And there's a lot of traffic consultants who know how to protect the public and at the same time have the roads open, closed, whatever it is. Would the village consider? My question. Would the village consider if I bring a traffic consultant to look at it?
I think that we've considered so much.
I think we've already considered
yeah.
it and have passed the resolution to close it only to be open, accessible to emergency vehicles. There's just no happy medium. It will be abused again. It just will be abused, and it was never intended to be a cut through. There are no businesses there. There's no homes on that street. It's just a convenience, and life for me. The kids that live on my block, all the kids that live on my block, and there are many kids that live on my block. I enjoy watching them play, and they try to play in the street. It's quality of life, and they deserve quality of life.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Just curious, when you're saying that you're making for a one-way, that you consider to making a one-way out,
Mm-hmm.
you mean to North Main? Or to
Oh, no, we were talking about Smithfield Court.
Smithfield?
Highland Avenue and Park Avenue will remain two-way streets.
Right.
And Smithfield Road,
I'm thinking maybe we should make just a one-way, just to Sconomon.
it only alleviates half of the problem. It doesn't alleviate the whole problem.
Nobody will go into the road.
It would still become a cut through.
It-
People would still.
It would be a
use
cut out.
Highland.
Most of the people using it because they want to cut out the light by 2:08.
That's exactly what we're
Yep.
saying.
So if it's only a one way to come in, then nobody will use it. Only Highland and
I
Park.
disagree with you 100%. There are people that come up Park Avenue and Highland
Yep.
Avenue every single
Yep.
day and cut through the one-way, to get to the traffic light at the other side. Because the traffic light is one light per lane, and it's a long light.
It is a
One of
long
the
light.
longest lights in the village.
Yeah.
The light is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to get more and more.
It is. And that's something we need to take up with the state. We have no control over that traffic light. That's a state traffic light, yes.
What about the walking by the, let's say, if you want to walk into the village, we will be able?
Oh, absolutely,
You can
yes,
walk on the
yep.
road, for sure, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It will not be locked off.
No.
It'll
It's-
be
it's a
locked
gate
off
for
to
vehicles.
motorized vehicles.
That's it. You can duck under it. The kids can duck under it.
They can ride
Make
their
a game out of
bicycles
it.
in it. Actually, hi, that's fabulous, because there are no cars on that road. The kids could play there.
Yep.
It's blocked by two gates.
If this is the case, maybe you should put some bleachers or whatever.
Well, our plan is to
That-
actually make it part of the dog park, so eventually it'll become more parkland,
Yep,
Okay.
which is a beautiful thing.
thank you.
Just one more question.
Sure.
I heard before that you made a resolution to make that we won't be able to build bigger houses, just smaller. If I understood correctly.
Oh, the FAR?
The FAR.
Yeah, what is that all about? What is what is the reason of it?
Well, it's all stated in the local law. If you don't have a copy of it, the clerk.
What's the reason of it? Why are you changing
The village determined that it wanted to maintain the character of the village, which is not small houses on big lots, but houses that are reasonably sized for the lot that they're on. And so it's created a floor area ratio. There's a schedule. Again, the local law it's been talked about now for over a year. And the various schedules have been changed to make them more lenient, to cause less nonconformity. The board took a very serious look at that. But that is the purpose, for single and two-family homes, to make them more in line with the character of the village.
Character of the village meaning what? That it's smaller? The houses are
I think what the board decided was they didn't want huge houses on small lots. And so they've created a floor area ratio. So, again, if you don't have I think there's a copy of the, yeah. You should take a look at that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, did they ever think about this idea about the 17, that to cross out the whole Scumberland Street and have some, somewhere along the line going to the 17 through a different way, so you shouldn't have that whole.
That's not part of the village, right? That's not part of the village property, so we wouldn't have any control over that.
For those terms,
Yeah.
because it's like a whole, stays like it's what it is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir?
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, Mr. Carl.
Just a few things, just wanted to go over with you. I noticed that there was I guess it's an ice skating rink that was built up in the park.
Yep.
Yep.
Not that I'm not against it, but I attend most of the board meetings. Was there a board resolution to construct that there?
No.
What about the expenditure of funds? Was that come out of the parkland or?
Yeah, it came out of Crane Park, and it was about $470 in material.
Who built that? The village?
DPW.
I'm a little confused. There's no signs over there whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true.
Are they supposed to wear helmets when they're skating on there? Does our village insurance carrier know about that?
He does know about it, yeah. I did speak to Greg.
Because normally something like that is a board resolution to construct something in the park. And like I say, I
Yeah.
attend most of the meetings here.
I
didn't
just,
hear-
no, you're absolutely right. I didn't, I just know that every year, these kids, they come down to the ice skating rink, the ponds, can't skate, there's nothing out there, it's kind of fragile at best. Last year, we had maybe a week where you could get out there. I went out there and drilled holes, and it was cracking all over the place. So rather than have that safety issue, which certainly I think would be a little more traumatic for some little kid, I went and put in something that was 6 inches thick, hopefully if it froze, and some little kid could have a little fun. So, we did talk about it, but we didn't make a resolution out of it.
I'm just concerned that, rules or regulations for the use of that, and whether they should be wearing helmets on there, no different than like the hockey rink down in the park. If somebody slips, well, they're on ice, but I mean, if they fall and hit their head, and, are we open to a?
Was it any
Well, they
different
didn't do it
if
when
they
they
were
were
on
on
the
the-
pond,
Yeah.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
Or if they're walking and they fall and hit their head?
I
I
mean,
was just concerned, now, is that thing
Yeah.
gonna get dismantled when the weather's out
Yes.
in the spring? So it's not a tripping hazard?
Oh, no, it'll all come down. Grass is underneath it. It's all
It
ready to go.
will come down or won't come down?
It will.
It'll come down, totally, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. I was just, like I said,
The goal actually is, in the bigger plan, is to find a way to make that part of the farmer's market, maybe a seating area out there, and then winterize it with the rink. Because the ponds don't freeze anymore. I haven't frozen in,
deep enough. I mean, there's a lot of issues over there.
Which is why we erected.
I understand that. I'm not against it. I'm just I was surprised when I saw it, and I don't recall it being discussed at a meeting. So that's my
It's
own.
actually been discussed for years, just was never done. So kudos to you for doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
sure I'll pay for that
Okay, that's
somewhere.
No, you won't. I thought it was a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of having the skating party is a great idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know the garbage was finally picked up over here by the Plum House.
So,
That was live garbage that was there for at least a week.
Yep.
That I know of. I mean, we're gonna encourage a rat infestation in this village, and, you know, those dumpsters they're a burning issue with me. They're on village property, they're
Yep.
haphazard, they're all over the place. There needs to be a meeting of the minds with whoever has these dumpsters, and it
Yep.
looks like it's more than the Plum House.
it is, and I'll let you finish your thought, John.
My suggestion would be that, I think there's I know there's one for a grease vat for
Yep.
but it looks like about 5 dumpsters out there.
Yeah.
Is to come up with an agreement, a licensing agreement, no more than 2 dumpsters, and they get picked up every other day.
So, yes, so let me tell you,
That would eliminate everybody having their own separate dumpster, their own separate carrier. The stuff, you go out there, you find box springs, bed springs, it's nothing but apartments upstairs. So, but it's, I started working on it many years ago when we discovered that it was our property, because at that time, nobody realized that it was our property. But I ran out of time, but it's heartbreaking to come in here and see live garbage piled up for over a week.
Yep.
And you got new food eateries, you got, Love Bites is expanding. Yeah, we don't want rodents and stuff running around here, and
so let me, all right.
Go ahead.
Listen, I'm with you 100%, 1,000%, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, I've been working on an initiative to remove all the containers in this parking lot entirely. Won't be one. What I'm looking at is a sealed box, all 4 sides, back and front. And there's one door, and that one door is key operated, and if you pay the Village of Monroe to open that door, you get to open it and put your garbage in it. When you close the door, a piston pushes the garbage to the back. When the container is full, it gets picked up. Now, what's the goal of that? It gets rid of this one next door here, it gets rid of those 5 over there, it gets rid of the 3 over by Oceans, it gets rid of the 17 over by Amendolas. They're all gone. And everybody has to sign up for this if they want garbage pickup, especially where my village property is here, right? The village property is a major issue. Now, I served yesterday Plum House, Aflac Building, and I got a message into the guy that owns Reed Building. The gray one next to,
10 Lake Street.
that Wallace and Berry's old
yes,
building?
yes,
Oh, okay.
okay. He has one, Plum House has one grease thing. Reed Building has one, and I got a phone call into the manager for IWS, and I told him that by Friday, I want those containers out of here. Out. I want them gone. And I'm gonna put a fence across this driveway here. No one's coming in. Unless you come in and you identify who you are. Friday. And I'll take them out forcibly if I have to. This is over. This is not happening anymore. So I think they got the message, because next morning at 4 a.m., they were out here cleaning.
Something's gotta happen over there. 'Cause
Well, I think they know it now. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. They're pigs. I don't mind saying that in public. They're pigs,
But if you had
and
half
I'm
the
done with it.
dumpsters and you had, a pickup every other day, that, at their
So what they admitted to me was they're cutting costs. I said, I'm not concerned about your costs. I'm not. Raise your rent. I'm not concerned about it. That's my village property. The village taxpayer owns that property, and I showed it. I said, you see that orange pin right there? And you see this one here? You draw a straight line. I don't want the cars here anymore, and I don't want the garbage bins here anymore. Friday. You got till Friday. Let me know what you want to do. So I'm gonna give them till Friday.
I wish you luck, because it really needs,
Oh, yeah.
it does need to happen. It's long overdue.
Yeah.
I know the village DPW's been out there cleaning up limbs and stuff
Yeah.
from the storm, and I saw them today up on Oakland Avenue. But over here by the flagpole,
So let me tell you about that. So, because I was asked about that already. So,
sorry I got to you too late.
no, it's all right. It's all right.
You wanted to be the one.
Yeah, so, I called the insurance company. You know, those are the Challenger trees.
That's correct, the 7 trees.
That's right.
There's
Now,
two
I don't,
sets of 7 trees, those and the oaks up on the other side.
yeah, the pin oaks. So, I don't want to be the guy, or this board want to be the board, that says cut them down, because they're in danger of collapsing. Evidently, they're cabled together already, they've been tied up, they've had issues, they weren't the right species, from what I understand. So I reached out to an arborist when they came down. I called Greg Townsend, and I wanted insurance money to cover the loss. And he said he thinks he has some money for us, but they'd have to come out and do an assessment. So I have to get an arborist, and the arborist won't come out, and I'm just getting back to it now. They wouldn't come out during a holiday. So unfortunately, I have to leave them there, but I sent pictures where I had DPW take about a dozen pictures. We sent them on to the insurance company. So we're looking to get some money for it, because obviously they mean a lot to the community and to the board that probably planted them when they did. So I want to honor that and not just haphazardly go in there and just hack them out. You know, I'm trying to do a little more diligence.
I mean, just the stuff that's laying on the ground even, just to.
Yeah, clean it up a little bit. I was trying to be a little dramatic about it to see maybe I could get a little more money. Maybe that wasn't the right thing, I guess. I don't know, but I don't disagree with you.
You know, is there a way to, like, I honestly, I didn't even know they were Challenger trees until this year, and I've lived here my whole life. Is there a way to run a story or let people know that they're the Challenger trees? Because I had no idea, nobody in my family knew.
A plaque, we could put a
Yeah,
plaque in.
Something to say what
I
they
know,
are.
the ones up on the other end,
Yes.
there was a plaque up there.
Disappeared.
A small concrete
Okay,
block with a brass plaque on it.
yeah, I really didn't know.
Disappeared.
These, I don't believe there was a plaque, but I know that they were planted in memory of the astronauts.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, they probably should, I could reach out to Greg tomorrow and see what we're gonna do with them.
I just wanted to get, just
Yeah.
around that flagpole, it just looks kind of,
It looks,
looks like it could
cruddy.
use a good cleaning up,
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate that. I know a while back you had talked about resurrecting the AARB. Is that
Yes.
something that you're still looking at,
Yes.
or no? That you are?
it's gonna happen.
Um,
One of the challenges we have, and I'll say it on TV land, is getting people civically minded. You know and I know how difficult it is to get people to serve in any capacity civically. It's a challenge. And we had done a round of interviewing for members for the planning board, and it was frightening.
It is, Mayor, it's people get in their cars in the morning, in the dark.
Yep.
And they head to the city or to New Jersey, and they come home at night when it's
Right.
dark. It's, we have it in the firehouse, you see, and the ones
know.
that do want to give, they drag their tails into the firehouse every
Yeah.
chance they can, but it's getting tougher and tougher.
It's getting tougher and tougher, and, but we're committed to it. We're looking at an engineering firm that'll do the ARB code, because we don't really have one. We had some form of one back in '92, and then I think there was some different iterations or addendums made, but it's nothing too substantial. We want something that has teeth, that allows us to control what goes on in this village. So we're committed to that.
Well, I think when we started the AARB, I believe Joe Mancuso had started that when he was
Oh.
mayor. But it was more, there was no teeth, they were like a toothless tiger.
Right.
It was more of a advisory, committee, and then we want blue awnings, or we want this kind of awnings.
Right. And I served on that board, and I can tell you that's exactly what happened.
It spun its wheels to the point where,
But I'll tell you something interesting. In 1993, the board was new, and I came before them for amendolas all the way around through Arden Hill Hospital. I did all that work there. And I had to go to 4 meetings. They wanted samples of stucco, they wanted samples of the awnings, they wanted samples of the lighting, the glass, everything, the doors. I mean, I thought it was pretty comprehensive. 4 times I went. But yeah, I'm sure it's not been the same, because I know the M&T Bank should have had, according to their approvals, should have had stone at the bottom. And it's stucco. So I don't know when and how and why, but there's a lot of those things. So the ARB is definitely something that this board's committed to.
the movie theater was the same thing. That was
Yeah.
supposed to be all brick.
Yep.
The front was, and the corners were, and everything else was.
And it's unfinished.
Foam with
Yeah.
stucco.
Okay, I get it. Any updates on the Roscoe Smith property?
We just talked about that today. It's funny you said that. So, John O'Rourke is going to be meeting with a dam engineer. I don't know if you knew where last we left off on this. Let me give you a little, real quick version. So, we're not buying it, we're not taking it, we're not doing anything, okay? Then we are, me, okay? And then I get the board to support it, and we're gonna go after it. We're ready to move forward in the finished negotiations with the applicant, who's now still before the planning board.
Still
And-
the same guy, Lincoln?
Same guy,
You see him?
yep, Yoda Frank, nice man. And, long story short, we come to the conclusion that supposedly there's some $500,000 dam remediation that has to get done. And I accepted it on face value. Oh, I'm not gonna make this board latch on to that again. So I went and researched it. I can't find it. I had a dam engineer research the documents from AZR and,
AFR.
no, not AFR,
I remember.
Atzel and somebody else, and AZT or something like that. Anyway, back in '07, I actually have it inside, just downloaded it.
I remember hearing from the former DPW superintendent, Brian Smith, about that. He had
Yeah.
made, after I was out of office.
Yep.
Something about that had to be removed or remediated.
Yeah, so he doesn't want anything to do with the dam. He wanted to take down Smith's Dam, him and Mayor Purcell. They wanted to lower it, and they want,
Water wheel is?
that's right. And this one here, they wanted no part of. And that's when I got involved. And we want to keep it. We want to keep it just the way it is. I don't want to touch it. But in the interim years, what's happened is they went ahead and got the Army Corps of Engineers and the DEC to allow them to declassify that dam by lowering it. And I want it left alone. According to a 2007 State Supreme Court decision, part of the resolution, the stipulation of settlement, was that the dam be repaired. Whatever repair was needed would be repaired. Nobody's talking about that. The only thing that they keep talking about is this $500,000 remediation. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I can't find it. So before I make this board, so I met a month ago with Mr. Frank, and I said, I want to get this done. You know, the village is committed to this. We want to get it done, want to get it cleaned up. He's offered to let me close the windows up. Council has advised me not to go on that property to do that for liability reasons, but Mr. Frank is happy to let me do that and seal them up. I would do it personally if I had to, but, you know, I'd like to be able to say in 2 months, we're gonna be able to close on that property. I feel that strongly about it.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Up in Village Gate on High Street, if memory serves me correctly, the planning board, when that was built, that was the old Stravitz property.
Right.
Required that they plant those trees out in the front between the curb and the sidewalk and the grass aisle, you know what I'm talking?
Yep.
And they're starting to heave the sidewalk. If you take a run up through there and look at it, you can see the sidewalk is all starting,
Starting to come up.
the roots are getting under and pulling it up. Now, as we all know, if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, you're responsible for it. The question, or anybody's question going forward, is if the planning board wanted those trees there,
Yes.
first, the trees should have been planted 10 feet back
Agreed.
on the
On the
person's
On the property.
Yep.
They weren't. They were planted there in the front for aesthetics. Well, now it's causing damage. So now how can you go tell the property owner that the sidewalk is heaving and it's your responsibility to fix it? So you know, the sidewalk's coming up, I go by there every day. So it's something that you may want to get in there and remove those trees before it does much more damage. You probably, it'd be 4th of July fireworks up there when you go in there to do it.
Right.
But it's certainly, it's going to cause a lot of damage, and if you have to go in there to replace the sidewalks, you're going to be digging those roots out anyway, and those trees are going to die.
Yeah.
But just give you a heads up, it's just starting to heave up in spots, so you may want to get it before it gets too much worse.
That's exactly what happened up in Prestwick, too. They made them plant trees within 2 feet of the sidewalk. Now you can't even walk on the sidewalk.
Yeah, right now they're saplings, so.
Well, get them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing I had, I noticed a few, probably about 3 weeks ago, there were water infrastructure grants that were announced. The town of Monroe seemed to get a pretty penny.
Water District 12.
Water District 12, I think it was, what was it, $700,000 or $800,000, something, it was a lot of money. And the village of South Blooming Grove got a lot of money. Did we submit for that?
Yeah. Second time.
Was there any reason why we were denied, or did you submit for the intake pipes, or?
Yes. And that was the main project. That was 3.6.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we did,
Why-
definitely did.
And why did you find out?
They don't,
reason?
I'm not aware of a reason behind it. You're just not chosen. You're not successful. I don't think they ever came back the first time with a determination as to why not.
Don't they do a rating on that? Normally, it's done by a rating.
John, I wouldn't know if
You should
that's
see where,
true.
well, find out, see where you scored on that.
Okay.
It's normally how those grants work. They just don't,
I thought it was based on project.
What's that?
I thought it was based on project. Am I wrong?
It's based on, it's based on a bunch of stuff.
Like, for instance, I think what John's trying to say, and I think that's probably spot on, is that, so we score probably low for the main trunk line because we have one.
Right.
So they're probably saying, well, you got one. So I actually asked a few municipalities that I know that have reservoirs in Dutchess County, and they told me, we only have one.
They only have one.
And I said, okay, just curious. But, I don't know what other mitigating
You have
circumstances.
two, but you're only using one, correct?
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, the 1894 is dead.
So, I mean, that's an argument to be had.
Right, but there's many
Oh, yeah.
municipalities who only work off of one, which is why I remember talking to, oh my God, why can't I remember her name?
Mary Beth?
Mary Beth. And when we discussed this project and putting in for it, one of the key factors was based on what the project was compared to everybody else's. So I know that has some.
Oh, I see. You mean in that round of
Right,
funding?
right,
Who came in with what?
Right.
Normally, there's a scoring that they do.
right, and I think that's
I'm
part
gonna
of
ask,
that.
I'm gonna ask that. I didn't know that. And we also have, I don't know if you knew this, but Millennium is a grant writing company.
Who?
Millennium. And we entered into an IMA with Harriman and the town of Monroe. And they got their WIA grant,
Are they
as you
from
know.
Cornwall?
No, they're in White Plains. And anyway, they didn't write this, Delaware Engineering did, the second round, the first and the second. But when we met with them, I met with them about a month ago, the fellow who represents us, and I'm thinking he had said something about the town, he didn't use the word score, but the town did very well in their review. I mean, District 12, if I remember correctly, that's Mary Bingham, right?
Yeah, it's up off School Road.
That's a train wreck, major train wreck. I mean, thank God we don't have that, but that's a major, major, major train wreck, and they just kept Band-Aiding it. Private system to begin with, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad you told me that. I'm gonna call Mary Beth tomorrow and say, what did we score?
It's no different when the community development grants that come out too.
Yeah, yeah.
They score that.
Yeah.
That's.
They have to come up with some kind of an objective criteria, right?
But I mean, you got two transmission lines, one which isn't in use anymore. One was put in 1895, and the other thing was 1941 or 42.
Right,
And
that's true.
It's, it's just a shame that we couldn't grab some of that money.
Did you say you were in favor or not in lining that pipe, that 1894, was sleeving it? Did you say that to me one time? Do you remember?
To line the inside of that pipe now, it's, with
Forget
all the
about it.
tuberculation and stuff that's in there, wouldn't be worth it. When I worked for the village back in the 70s, actually, I think it was 79 or 80, before we put the filter plant online, they hired a company to come in and what they call polypig that line with water pressure, and they had these they look like foam bullets wrapped in tar paper and high-pressure water from the reservoir, and they shot them. We had to cut sections of pipe out down, at the time it was the old chlorination plant, and they pushed those pigs down, and the stuff to come out of them.
Really?
Then, yeah, it was.
You cut sections of the pipe?
We cut one section of the pipe. Down at
On the whole run?
On the line coming,
Right.
over by where the lagoon is now.
Right.
We cut a section out, and then we had to pump, when that stuff was coming out, it was, back then, the regulations weren't there, you know, the old
No.
boss, just pump it into the river, okay.
Yeah, right,
That's what you did.
right.
But, you know, that older stuff's probably gray cast, and yeah, I wouldn't even
What
challenge.
about
trying-
sleeving it?
What's that?
What about sleeving it?
No, because then
No.
it's only what's it, a 14 and a
14, isn't it?
14 and a 12-inch pipe there. So you're sleeving it, you're making it smaller.
No, I know,
You
yeah,
wanna go larger.
yeah.
You know, and that, I'm not a big fan of, you know, high-density polyethylene pipe,
To begin with.
but on the treated end.
Right.
You know, I'm a cast iron or ductile iron, copper service lines, but on your raw line, you know, you could probably go with a
anything.
with a 36-inch pipe from the reservoir down, easier to handle, cost is cheaper, and do that in the polyethylene, and you won't get the buildup on the inside of the pipe.
Right.
Although, you know, the newer ductile iron, now everything is cement lined, and you know,
Right.
it's got a bituminous coating and all that. But, no, I wouldn't, to try to sleeve that, you're trying to pull too much water through it as it is now. And
Right.
you will get times, and I know when we started that filter plant, we had times where we were actually scarifying the pipe because we were trying to treat too much water through the filter plant. And when you started to scarify, all the stuff that's on the inside of the pipe was coming into the filter
Into the
plant.
plant.
And it was bad. You know, plugging filters up, you couldn't keep making, you're trying to make water, your filters are plugged up, and it's
Changing the media,
better off just to
yeah.
put all new in, you know.
No, listen, I'm with you. I'm gonna find out tomorrow what that score was. Never heard that.
Yeah. All right, well,
Appreciate
sorry
it.
it took so long.
Thanks,
No,
John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Anyone else? Please, sir, come on up.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, Mr. Mitz.
Didn't mean to stay away so long, but you know, the kids kept me busy. On the issue that you just mentioned, Mayor, about the bank building, if they were supposed to do A and they did B, why did they ever, I mean, doesn't the board have, or the planning board have a responsibility to comply with the rules fully and completely? I mean, I know I've been pushed for years over things, as you
Yeah.
know. I mean, the board should be, as Trustee Conklin said earlier, everybody be treated fairly across the board. But I'll give you another good example, going to the garbage issue. I went through the community over last weekend. I took about 20 pictures throughout the entire downtown village.
Here?
The law specifically states, even on where the new constructions have happened, that they're supposed to have the garbage bins enclosed. There's none in downtown in the village.
Here?
In here.
Oh.
I've not seen really any that are in. In fact, if you look around the corner from the police department, right on the sidewalk, somebody was out there throwing a bed mattress in the garbage over the weekend. What's going, you know, this is, but yet I've been told by the building department to do what I want to do is we're trying to move forward. They want me to build an enclosure on something that's always been there. You know, you got to get some footage to this and say to the board, the building department and the planning board, if you prove something, it's got to be done this way, and there's no way they can override or they can not do it because it's not fair to people. But you got so much garbage sitting around the streets. It's not just here, but over if you look over by the commuter parking lot. I went in there, I got a picture of it. It's so far up that let's say this is the top. It's sitting up here, and the door is like here.
You mean by Bourbon Street?
Yeah, but it's not Bourbon Street, though. It's one of the houses back there. I don't think it was theirs because it had white bags in it. Right by where the town hall used to be. The D'Angelo building.
Oh.
Right. I mean, and then you go around the back and you see all those, there's, you know, you can't imply certain residents to do certain things and others do other things. And I stress this board because it's fair for anybody when they're going through the process of the planning board to know what we can do and not do. You know, planning board thinks they can come into my house now and tell me what to do, and it's on the record. They want to tell me what they can do and can't do inside my house, just because it's an historical building. But if that's the case, then it's got to be for everybody. So I stress that you need to put something on the books here that stops the planning board and the building department from being able to say, you approved A, it's A. You can't go to B. down the road without going through the full process, or getting the your permission to do something that, if you're gonna override a law like that. I mean, I don't know how to do it. I'm not government. You guys handle that stuff much better than I do. I like my little projects. But I think you need to look at that, because, I mean, there's a number of things around town. If you walk around, you can see stuff going on, even when you were talking about the trees. It's a danger on High Street and Lakes Road there, across from that little park. That's a dangerous trying to pull out of there, because you can't see anything, because they built trees up, right on the wall, that you can't even see what's coming from the left. Thank God there's nothing been as serious ever happened there. In fact, I'm surprised Jim didn't do something about 8 years ago. It's his street. But you got to get this on taken care of, because it's not fair to you. You guys have the power. You have the power to say, listen, building department, if this is what was approved, this is what it's to be, and you have no right to override it. You guys should have the right to override it, not anyone else, because you've already laid the rules out. And I think it's just unfair to everybody. But there's garbage, there's these problems all over. And I know, and I've looked in the law, there's a beautification law in there. I think that has to do with your trees and your lawns and everything else. It's not enforced. It's not enforced. We know it's not enforced. Look across the street from me. It's not enforced. But the highway department, during the winter when we had that bad storm, they came out and they did cut up, along the street, because the branches were hanging 3 feet into the street. Guaranteed to be an accident. How many people, because I have no lights there, that's another thing. For some reason, in front of Rest Haven, we don't have lights. But above and below us, there's lights. You know how many people are walking on that street at night that's bound to get hit? It's crazy. And in fact, we're looking at putting street lights there, because we're concerned not only for the safety of people in front of the house, but the safety of the house as well, because we sit so far back, it's as dark as can be. It's easy to get upstairs to my house, and I never know you were there until you were there, and that's not good. But you need to pass something on this board that says, listen, if you go in front of the planning board and it's this, that's what it is. And the only way they can change it is come to you guys and say, we want to change it. Because why otherwise? If they wanted it A or B, they should have done it at the time. Not come back and someone says, oh, okay, we're going to let you go on this one. But we're not going to make you put the garbage, contain those garbage within walls. Which looks worse? I'd rather see red bricks in the garbage container. I mean, in fact, we are in the residential, but we actually pay for corporate pickup because we use. And we maintain it. And if I got too much garbage, I throw it in the back of my trucks, because I have the ability to do it, and we do it. But you got to pass something that just comes in and says, listen, if you do A, it's A. If you do B, it's B. And the building department should be out there, because I know 17M, the shopping center they redid, in the back of that, there's no enclosures. Not one enclosure's back there. They just redid their place. I'm redoing my place, but I'm told to put an enclosure in. Well, is that right? I don't think it's right. Especially, I don't think it should be done in this particular instance, because you're putting another structure up next to an historical building is what you're doing. But if that's your code, I will follow it. But it's not fair play.
Do you have a large container? What do you have on your property? Garbage cans or?
No, we have a dumpster.
You do have a dumpster?
They come in. We have a commercial dumpster. I think it's a 10-yarder.
Okay.
It's.
You create that much garbage, really?
Huh?
You create that much garbage?
Well, Pam says I'm full of garbage, so I got to throw it away. No. When we were doing
fairs and
events or whatever,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I mean, we don't fill it up all the time, and sometimes they even take away little debris and stuff for us. But that's self-paid. We pay that ourselves.
No, I know. I just
Yeah.
was curious. I
You-
didn't think you really generated that much garbage.
Yeah, but I also pay for garbage picked up by the village too, by the way.
Me too.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't use it.
Me neither.
Okay, then we're the same. But, so I just stress you, I mean, there's going to be more to come in the future over what's going on there. But just up front, you need to get something on the books that says you do A, it's B, and there's no discretion. Because it's not fair, because it seems like when no one's looking, all of a sudden someone's doing something. And that's not fair. And to walk around this town, and I've taken a very big liking to the town. Like I said, around the corner from the police department, not that they have any control over it, but there was a enclosure there made of wood, and it's two sides of it is laying on the ground. It looks, I mean, you're coming down through town in Monroe, right on your right, you know?
Right.
It's crazy, you know, it needs, there needs to be enforcement. You know, you can't just go to people behind here and say, we're gonna make you do this, because I agree with you, they should. But what about all these other people that are around town that are doing? You gotta be fair.
So, go ahead.
So, Sunday, right? Was it Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday, Neil and I spent a good portion of the day driving around the village. And when I tell you driving, I have a receipt for gas I'm gonna submit to the village. We documented so many violations and things that I think it's just a matter of getting our department out there and really noticing what's going on, because we certainly did. And when I tell you we spent hours, we really, he documented, I drove, he wrote, he photographed. I mean, it was a really intense day, so. We went,
We did.
John, we went everywhere.
We did. Got pictures.
Got pictures, want to see them? Here you go. I'm not kidding you, John, every part of this village we touched, every part. We went in back of businesses, residents, we were everywhere.
How does somebody build a salt shed behind a shopping mall and nobody knows it's there? But I did.
But listen to me, that question was raised every place we went. How did that happen? How did nobody see that? How are they getting away with that? And it's all about compliance, and nobody's doing it. Nobody's out there, nobody's hammering them, and it's got to change. And Neil and I think we're in agreement when we said, you know, enough is enough. We have to.
Not to interrupt you, but look up behind ShopRite where they're storing the salt up there.
Yeah.
We were there.
That stuff all Washington is in Orange and Rock.
We were there. And I'm sure we were in places we shouldn't have been as well.
And all these signs that are being put up on telephone poles, and AJ buys houses, and
Yeah.
this guy buys ATVs, they all got phone numbers on them.
Yep.
Somebody ought to call them, tell them, come clean your mess up. And you got 1-800-JUMP, you know, that's, you know, what an irony that is, because why did he come pick all the junk up on the pole? Jeez.
Don't you
I
have
agree,
a fire inspector or something, someone else that's in?
We
I
have a
thought-
code enforcement officer part-time, but all three of them are code enforcement officers.
Right, right.
And, yeah.
Listen, I'm not going to say they don't do their job. I don't know what they do up there. They're very busy. What they need to do is become better time management. There needs to be time set to do the things that they need to do outside of the office, whether it's code enforcement or fire inspections. It needs to come full circle, and everybody has to take a shot out there in the street and say, I'm going to do that part of town, and I'm going to do that part of town. And I think we're all in agreement that that's something that we are now going to make sure that it gets done and gets done correctly.
You need more windshield tours.
Yeah.
You can see it for yourself.
John, I can tell you, we went to one place, I won't even tell you where it is.
I probably know.
There was no words, no words.
What did it have?
Well, honestly, I'm just gonna tell you, so we pull into this one particular area, and this gentleman knocks on my window, and I go to Neil, he's knocking on my window. So Neil says, okay, roll it down. So I roll it down, the gentleman introduces himself, very lovely man. We introduce ourselves, and he says, what are you doing? I said, well, Neil says, we're looking for blight. And he looked a little confused. So he says, excuse me, and Neil says, we're looking for blight. So I said very casually, garbage, as in that. And he goes, oh, the dumpster? I said, the dumpster? How about everything? It's garbage is everywhere, everything. And then followed us around and wanted to know what else was wrong, and I'm saying to Neil, does he see?
So we wrote it all up, and I'm going to present it to the building department and code enforcement, and I'm going to ask for them to get it taken care of.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, like I said, and I think you really need to, if things are going on where things are being done, outside approvals, the board needs to be able to have that power to pull any type of CO back or whatever.
And I agree.
As an oversight committee, to everything the planning board, the ZBA, and everything. Because I think for them to go and say do A and they do B, it's just like they want me to do A at the house there, but they said, but historically it's B. Well, you can't do it because, I mean, if I changed it, all hell would break loose. And I'm not looking for that. I'm looking to play by the same rules that everybody else plays by.
And you should be treated that way. And if we don't know about it, there's no way that we can do anything about it. So information is key. So if you feel, like you said, with the dumpsters, that that's an issue, it's certainly something that should be discussed.
Yeah, well, I just realized that because David, my architect had indicated me that they were mandating me to build up this little garbage structure. And so Pam and I said, let's take a walk around the town. Let's see what, and we're going, no one else has them. Even the buildings that have restored themselves and renovated themselves were never told to do it.
Right.
They were never brought up to code. Let's say they've been here longer than that. And you can't come to A and say do it, and B say you don't have to do it, and say C, I'll let you change the rules.
So you document it, right? You take your walk and you photograph
Right.
the people who don't have or are not in compliance. And then you shoot us an email with some pictures and say, just bringing it to your attention, I was told I have to be compliant, but A, B, and C are not compliant.
Right.
What makes me different?
You really want to hear from me?
You know I love hearing from you, Tim. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that. I just figured I'd point this out because when I heard about the wall, it kind of drive me crazy because there is a situation pending with the building department that will come up as issue at some point. But to say A or B and then do C, that's where if you know what's going on, I understand. But the only way I think you can get control of it, because I do understand building inspector has his parameters he can work in. But he's got to be given the parameter too that if you change something after of the final approval, it has to come back to you guys because you'll be the fail-safe that nobody can say, oh, well, the building inspector said this, or planning board said that, or engineer said this. It comes from the horse's mouth, and
Right,
that's
but
being the people that make the rules.
He doesn't have the authority to change the building code.
No, but they changed
it's
the
written in the
approvals.
code-
They changed the approval. The approval said do A on the building, and they did B on the building. That's what I'm getting at. That's the
Okay.
point I'm getting at. That's what I'm talking about, because the rules say do A or B. And by doing something else, you're allowing them to change
Right.
an approved document by the village. It's like trying to find that gas line. You move the road without documenting it, you're never going to find the gas line, right?
Right.
So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Mr. Mitz.
Anyone else in the public? Okay. I need a motion to go into
I'll make
executive
the
session
motion. Go
for,
into executive session for
I'll
legal
second.
Who's second? I'm sorry.
Debbie?
and cookies.
Aye.
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 aye, so carried. Thank you all.